How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? I have the pleasure of being here with a fellow Canadian Sadokist. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. Let's just jump right into this. It's the day after the grand finals. From this event, what were some of the highlights, and did the bracket sort of work out the way you expected it to leading up to the Luminosity Fnatic grand finals?
To start with the brackets, I think Group A definitely did. It was kind of the group that we knew was stacked. We had three teams that have been within the top four in the world. Na'Vi, obviously Luminosity played incredible, and Fnatic. Rest of the group, I think the NIP was a decent story, Mouse Sports as well. But that group kind of went as we thought it would, barring the exception of Luminosity topping it. But again, it was pretty straightforward. It was Group B that was more surprising. When we got into that, Envy, I mean, these guys won the last major and couldn't even get out of this group stage. Not only that, they came dead last in the group. Now, they lost to eFrag. Take it with a grain of salt. It was after realizing they were out. So, but I mean, that's a huge storyline in itself. The other storyline that came out of that is Tempo Storm, because we've heard this story of like the second Brazilian team growing. They just got picked up. We thought, all right, they're onto something. But then last week at the major qualifier, dead flat. Henny didn't even really show up. So to see them actually perform on land, to see them rise to that hype was incredible. To see them give Na'Vi a run as well, which we know the other Brazilian team, Luminosity, always plays close. That was super impressive. I think that was one of the better series of the weekend. But then when we got into the actual playoffs, like the Counter-Strike levels that we saw was insane. Like some of those boosts that we saw, I mean, straight up that Na'Vi game against Luminosity on Overpass, that's a classic right there alone. I mean, there was some really, really good Counter-Strike played.
Yeah, I agree with that. Na'Vi Luminosity series is probably going on in history, and you did mention for the boost particularly, it's having a lot of discussion on Twitter. What's sort of your take on that? The pros have been I think we've had some divided opinions from some professionals.
I think so. The reason that there's still like the skepticism over a boost like that is because the whole Olaf boost, DreamHack Winter, when they could clip over the map. These are a little different because first and foremost, that one was kind of map breaking in a way. I give full look. I'll be the first to say it. I give full credit to Fnatic in that situation for finding that boost. Like if you're clever enough to find it, that's great. But you could kind of see the whole map. There was questionable pixel walking. It was more clipping that was the issue. These are different. These boosts that we're finding now, the 3-man boosts are allowed now. That's been fully acknowledged by the organizations and tournaments. And to find that many boosts on a map like this, where everyone thinks they've seen it all, and then excuse me, then you see this 3-man come out in 2 different rounds in overtime. It's like, okay, like I give full marks to that. I think that was super clever by Na'Vi.
I know that Fnatic and Luminosity sort of did a gentleman's agreement before the grand finals to just say, we're not going to do this boost for now. Maybe we'll see it come out at the major. But I just want to go a little bit specifics on certain players. For your money, who was the MVP of this entire tournament, front to back?
See, front to back is a different question, because if I were to go just the group stage, I think no question it was Nico. He was insane. Fur was really good for Luminosity. I think you have to give it to him. But if I was going to go MVP for the whole tournament, I mean, Fnatic wins. Everyone expects it. Olaf was great. I have to look at Luminosity for that. I mean, I think Taco has to get credit. Fallen was really good, but Taco has to give credit because this is the guy that already people have been saying, like, oh, he's the dead weight on the team. He's been struggling. He's the reason that they're not succeeding to the next level. And I think he was their best player. Like the clutches, the rotations. In the final against Na'Vi, they were down 2 men in a situation on Overpass, and he gets flashed over, against Fnatic, and gets flashed over and takes 2 kills back. Like the guy played the best Counter-Strike I think he's ever played, and I think for me he was the MVP of the tournament.
I want to focus a little bit more on the broad spectrum of this event. Obviously, it was a fantastic event. The games were super high quality. For you, being the host of the desk and being involved in the production, how do you make sure that you stay hype and keep the fans and the viewers interested over the course of days that can stretch for, sometimes more than 10 hours?
Yeah, I mean, we did have some long days. I think it was pretty straightforward on the desk this weekend. I mean, the crowd itself gets you into it. It's hard not to feel the excitement in this building. The Spodek was really exciting. I guess hype as well for coming from a casting role normally. I guess I'm just used to yelling and screaming, so it kind of came naturally, but at the same time you didn't want to sell it. So there's a balance, but I think definitely the audience helped a lot to keep me entertained and keep me excited. I mean, I had goosebumps watching those games too, so pretty straightforward, I think.
For sure. Let's look at the future next couple of weeks because we've got the major coming up. Now, obviously, here at IEM, there was not a North American representative necessarily. We saw Tempo, we saw Luminosity, but no Cloud9, no Team Liquid. But we did see them at the MLG Major qualifier, and we saw some strong results. However, Liquid will not be playing with Kusta, and Cloud9 has had some shaky moments, especially on T side. What do you sort of think the state of the NA scene is going to be like heading into the major in terms of like where your performance level might be?
First and foremost, I hope they take this time to practice like crazy. We know that there's leadership issues. We know Cloud9's been struggling with it. I think they were fortunate to make it through to the major in the group that they had. I know Renegades has been struggling a lot. I think there's something to be taken from the Splice story, right? They didn't even qualify. They were there because Mongols couldn't make it due to visa issues. I think that just the way they came in and just played, they manned up. They didn't have this overthinking. They had pressure. They just wanted to win. They just wanted to win, and they did. And I think North American teams can take a bit of that and implement it in the top teams as well. Because if you look at the guys like Liquid and Cloud9, and even CLG to some extent, CLG is a little better for it, but they try and force themselves into these situations. They try and force these roles, and sometimes they they squander their skill and try and get the team game going, and it doesn't work out. So I hope, I'm super impressed that there's 4 teams going to that major, but I really hope that they relax a little bit, find their game style, and just play their game. I think too much, Sean Gares isn't on Cloud9 anymore. They're not going to have that counter-stratting ability anymore. That was his go-to. They just have to play their game now, and hopefully they can find it. I think the groups are going to be evened out pretty well, and I think it should be favorable. I think there's a chance that maybe one of them can go through right now. We've seen massive inconsistencies. I mean, FaZe has been struggling, VP's been struggling. Based on the way the rankings work, there's a chance those 2 teams could be in the same group. Now, we don't know that yet, but if they are, and Cloud9 or Liquid's in that group, that's the biggest opportunity they're going to get. So, again, play their game, and I think they're going to be, first and foremost, they're going to finally be in front of an NA crowd, but I think play their game, they'll be fine.
You mentioned Splice. I actually want to quickly mention the fact that they were yelling and screaming, and a lot of people have been, and you said play their own game, and they were clearly doing so. Do you think for North American teams as opposed to European teams getting a little bit rowdy might favor a North American, since it's, we've seen Splice, and that's kind of the way they are as people?
Definitely the way they are as people. I think that their story is going to actually help them going into the big arena, the nationwide arena in Columbus, because a lot of people are going to get behind that, right? That is the Cinderella story. So if the crowd's going to be loud, they're going to be super loud for Splice. And again, I think that their play style is going to favor them in some sense. However, the major qualifier and the sort of that tier 2 realm of teams that are there is very different from the experience of going against a Fnatic, of going against an Envious. And given Envious' struggles, it still doesn't matter. You put them on a main stage like that, and they have the experience to play in it. So hopefully the crowd plays to their advantage, but they don't let it get inside their heads too much. They're going to be on stage, they're going to have soundproof headphones, and hopefully they can keep their vision on the monitors and not get too distracted by the people on the other side of it. So, again, it could favor them, but it could also really hamper them.
Okay. One last question on the major. Just that taken as a whole, obviously Fnatic can be a contender. Maybe we'll see Luminosity. But other than, the big 3, for example, who do you think might be a dark horse at the event or might really come out strong and impress in the bracket?
I'm going to say it, and there's probably going to be a lot of people that instantly disagree. I think NIP's suddenly a dark horse again. We've already seen it at this tournament. Again, didn't make it out of the group stages, but had Fnatic back against the ropes, which apparently even when you do, you don't, because we saw that in the final. But look, Threat's already implemented more strategic play from their T side. We saw that this weekend. We've seen Pith actually step up. This LAN, I thought he was a lot better, and we're seeing improvements out of them. And we know at major tournaments, even Cluj, when everyone thought there was, this is hit Nips, hit rock bottom, they still somehow make it to a semifinal. So in those moments, in those tournaments, they seem to find a way. And in that sense, I really think NIP is a dark horse right now because we've only seen one LAN from them. They've got now a notebook to go back and study. And I think they're actually going to, I won't say semifinals, but easily quarterfinals and definitely a chance to get through to the semis at least.
All right. Super interesting. Definitely you do see the improvements from Threat there. I just want to end quickly on just sort of your history as a caster a little bit and sort of what your personal, how do you prepare for an event for yourself in terms of research, getting head in the right place? Can you just walk me through your preparation for any given event?
Yeah, well, so it depends on the level of the event. So this weekend hosting, because I don't normally host, it's kind of a role that I've been flirting with this year, and I think this year I'm going to do more of it. But this event I had to take notes, look at the bracket, see the head-to-heads. So usually, you look at HLTV or CS Gopher, and you look at stats. Knowing the teams isn't so much an issue. This is my 8th event in 8 weeks, which is kind of crazy when I say that. So I kind of I'm familiar with the teams, so I don't need to look at demos. I know their play style. It's more head-to-head statistics. The major, though, is different. So the major, I've taken a week off specifically beforehand where I will watch demos. I will sit and I'll go through, guys like FaZe who have made roster changes since the last major. Guys like Fnatic even. Now, Fnatic we've seen enough of. Maybe I won't look at too many of theirs, but see the differences in their play styles, find the subtle nuances that they're making. Astralis is another good example of that. They've changed a lot. Even though they haven't changed anyone on the team, they've changed a lot in their calling and play style. So the major, I'll look at stuff like that. But for most tournament, it's just quick rundown, review of the teams, make sure I know the statistics, and go from there.
And just to close, I just want to ask you, do you have any advice for anybody who might be interested in getting into esports broadcasting or CSGO broadcasting specifically in terms of getting their start or climbing the ladder?
Yeah, I was right place, right time, so it's kind of hard to give the best advice in that sense. But look, cast as much as you can. get on Twitch, be willing to take some hits. I mean, I volunteered basically. Everyone did. All of us did for a long time before we got to where we are. So if there's a local tournament, go there. If there's a lower tier team or playing, I mean, if you're in North America, ESEA or CEVO, jump on that, get in the GoTV, and even if you're casting to like 3 or 4 people, at least it gives you a demo that you can look back on and kind of improve with. So you just kind of gotta work hard and continue to work hard, and eventually you'll find a door and get through it.
Well, you're certainly working hard, as you said, 8 tournaments in 8 weeks, and I appreciate you taking the time out of that busy schedule to talk to us today.